Nothing Gomes could do on that.
Row, row, row your boat for Eric Thames. And Eric's last name spelled like the English River, but not pronounced Thames, but it is Thames. On their way to a split with 4 more. I wish Matt all the best. It's a strike, 2-2.
Yeah, Matt had a couple big hits, and then he hurt his hammy running to first that game and never got his timing back.
Nope.
You're down. You're out.
Wow, somebody's getting kicked out. Hunter Wendelstedt sees somebody in the upper deck or in the second deck.
All security.
Somebody's been ejected. Either Joe West or Hunter Wendelstedt saw it, and they've asked security to be called either in the second deck or third deck. And they said, we'll wait for you. Better not be Mike Rizzo.
Two things here. Number one is the rules themselves. OBR 801D and E both state that umpires have the authority to disqualify or eject people from the playing surface. But this is not the playing field. Playing field means dugouts, by the way, as well. But this isn't it. This is a suite in the stadium. Hold on, Joe has something to say. Didn't Joe say a few months ago that the numbers for COVID were... Anyway, that's irrelevant. What we're going back to is the actual rule, because that's what we talk about. 801B is what's relevant here. The other rule doesn't apply. This one does. It talks about actually taking care of people who are not necessarily on the playing field. It specifically grants umpires authority to order a player, coach, manager, club officer, or employee to do or refrain from doing anything which affects the administering of these rules and to enforce prescribed penalties. Hunter Wendelstedt, the plate umpire, is the one who called for the removal of Rizzo, and as a club officer or employee, he technically, Wendelstedt, has the authority to do that. For Rizzo, he has a track record. This isn't his first go-around. In 2016, he confronted umpire Jim Joyce after a game after Joyce made a call during the game that Rizzo didn't like. He admitted doing it, and there was a whole hubbub, so he does have a history. This is not unheard of for Rizzo. In 2017, Dan Bellino ordered a fan removed for tipping pitches. In 2016, Bob Davidson ordered a fan removed from Philadelphia for a vulgar homophobic insult. Prior to that, you have Welke removing a fan who was vulgar to Bryce Harper, profane as well. Prior to that, there was a homophobic slur against Yadier Molina. That fan was removed. So there is ample precedent and history of umpires actually using their 801B authority. The only question here is for Hunter Wendelstedt to turn around and say that Rizzo has to go. It must have been something pretty severe. And we're not going to really know what was said. We don't have the audio of that, so it's difficult to analyze. But it must have been something extremely severe that warranted an immediate action, because he just ripped his mask off, went up there and said, hey, you got to go. We'll wait for you. Joe West, all his role here is he's not calling for it, even though he was on the phone. He is as a crew chief trying to follow through with enforcing something that a crewmate, a younger crewmate, wanted him to do. That's why umpires like working with him, because he follows through, and there's kinship, as you can see right there. There is a bond. Joe takes care of his crew. The only question was what Hunter Wendelstedt wanted, which is Rizzo's removal. Was that a proper judgment call or not? That's what the debate is about, and we're not going to be able to figure that out without more audio of what Rizzo actually did. By the way, I don't think for a second it had anything to do with him not wearing a mask. It was something he said. But like when a traffic cop pulls you over and they find something else and they add on to the ticket, that's what Joe was talking about when he was at the dugout. Oh, he's not wearing a mask too. We can get him on that. Because whatever the Wendelstedt grounds for removal were must have needed some sort of bolstering. And so Joe West said, we can add the mask charge onto that too.
Well, we're told Mike Rizzo is still in his visiting box, so wasn't him.
Asking for someone to be removed versus actually getting them to be removed, very different things. For fans, it's quite easy. There's no political influence ties or anything like that. But for a visiting GM, yeah, that has to be such a strong case. And I really hope for Hunter's sake that his report reflects that it was an extremely out-of-bounds thing, something unspeakable that was said. Because other than that, I don't see MLB responding positively to this.
Wasn't Blooper, it wasn't Timothy Miller. Again, the runner goes, and a swing and a miss, and that will retire the side. Thames strikes out for the first time. Martin gives up a hit, but then strikes out the other three Nationals hitters.
I think Hunter just issued Eric an equipment violation for throwing his bat and other equipment, because Eric doesn't look pleased at all. Interesting stuff.